Happy Friday, everybody. Your friendly neighborhood host, Ricardo Wilkins, and you're here. If you're wondering where you are, you're at Cute for Teams, Champions Using Teams Effectively, our February session, as well as our Valentine's Day. I mean, I had to do something here. It falls, exactly on the day, so I thought I could at least change my background. But yeah, glad you're here. As always, if you're here for either two reasons. One, you have a question you wanted to ask, and if so, you can put it in chat. You can come off mute, and we can talk through that. And I'll do my best. I can't guarantee an answer, but I'll do my best. Or you're here because you just like to hear about teams and collaboration best practices from someone like me who can't seem to stop talking about that kind of stuff. So if you're here for either of those two reasons, you're in the right place. Chatter or off mute if you do have a question or comment or feedback on anything that I talk about. And in terms of talking about things, I mean, I was really just going to hit some random things that I have been seeing and thinking about since we last got together. And of course, all of the sessions are at aka.ms/cute for teams. I'm sure all of you today that have joined have hit that link because that's how you got here. You may notice updated website. So hopefully that works for you. Any feedback there is great as well. But that will continue to be the link. That's also got the link for all the other live streams that I do, particularly the Cap for Copilot, aka.ms/Cap for Copilot. All the sessions are there. Links to all the YouTubes will be there. So that's supposed to be the one-stop shop for all things teamwork cowbell. All right. So now that the commercials are all done, just some random things I was going to talk about. And one of them was, and don't let me forget about the new calendar, just in case I do forget. Somebody put it in chat if it looks like I'm forgetting it. But when I was opening Teams recently, I think in my demo environment, and I got the banner about new features in the current version of Teams that I had in this demo environment. And if you've ever seen that banner, especially if you are on a targeted release tenant, you'll see things like this. And so it was a scrolling list of lots of features, but I centered on a couple that were highly relevant to me, which are these two from February 4. So the first one I'll talk about, but can't really show, just based on the demo environment, but seeing clearly with super resolution. So automatically, if I can make this a little better, actually, let's make it all the way bigger. Automatically enhancing the incoming video feed for more clarity by turning on super resolution. The reason this is important to me is because, and you probably can tell those that are joining live and seeing my camera feed, I'll probably tell I've got a little better than your typical webcam going on with my video feed. So I haven't tried this with anyone yet, but yeah, so I do use a very high-end camera to, give high resolution video feed. So it should look good on normal Teams. Well, now with this February 4th thing, I'm just wondering what I'm going to look like to someone who turns on super resolution on my already high resolution video. I mean, I do have some imperfections in the skin, and I'm just wondering if those are going to be really brought out. So, so this is something I got to test out and just see exactly how that works. But what I expect it to do, though, is for those who are maybe are on normal webcams or things like that, will increase that visual. But I also think that it may be helpful for those that have made the investment, like I have, in a higher end camera, to give the people in the meeting kind of the best version of what I am trying to achieve with that camera. So that one caught my eye. I still have yet to play with that one, and I don't know if anybody on the line has seen that yet, tried it out or anything. Be interested to see how that looks. Um, so I see in the chat, not yet. Um, and then, of course, uh, your it may vary based on network bandwidth, right? I suspect having a bad bandwidth isn't going that's not going to do as much as it could as if you're on a very strong network for bandwidth perspective. So that'll be an interesting one. I do plan to look into that and see how that works, and especially in different meetings I'm in, and see what people's video feeds looks like for that. So that was cool. So that's February 4th. And the other one is very cool, I think, for all of us, but for me as well, just based on the way I use Teams. There's new ways to resize Teams windows, more compact window sizes and layouts for multitasking, for side by side and all that kind of thing. So I don't know if you've tried this. This I can show. I don't know if you tried this yourself, but let's go into Teams, into a meeting. I had one. Let's try this one here, for instance. So we'll hit join. And so even at the join screen, oops, you may not appreciate this if you haven't ever like really resized these windows before. And if you're maybe a one or two monitor person, you kind of open your Teams on a certain monitor and just go full screen. You might never have a reason to resize. But as you can see, when you do make this skinnier, you see how it kind of is very responsive. It jumps to this setup here, where it's now more vertical than horizontal. Where this is important, maybe this is a plug or a suggestion for all of you who have a monitor and never thought about turning it portrait. If you got it like on a monitor arm, usually those are able to turn. I won't go into a big spiel about the power of the portrait monitor, but think about it in terms of whether it's reading documents, because that portrait is kind of like an 8x10 page, whether it's looking at spreadsheets that have a lot of data going down, or Teams itself with all the chat, which is obviously vertical. There's a lot of interesting benefits to portrait. And so in my setup, I do have a portrait monitor that I use often, particularly for my Teams meetings. And so that's why this is so useful to me, as you can imagine. And again, I can't show this on my portrait monitor, but as you can imagine, when I bring this over to my portrait monitor and I'm able to squeeze it like this, that's very helpful. In the past, bringing it over to my portrait monitor would have some things cut off, and I would have to finagle to like hit the join button and things like that. So this is a big deal for me from a portrait monitor perspective. I suspect it could also be a big deal for anyone that on a small screen, just kind of as the advertisement said, if you were trying to put things side by side. Now, this join screen doesn't last very long, so one could argue, okay, no big deal there, but let's go ahead and join. I do think it's a big deal that join screen is flexible, but if we go in here and join, now this also lets us squeeze it, a lot. And so again, previously, I was one trying to squeeze this before this update, and I would lose my call button and lose some things. I just wouldn't have all this functionality. It would force me to have some minimum size. So this is a big deal to me. And then going to do something else here. So let me go. I'm going to invite one of my other personas. Let's come to people. Yeah, there he is. Let's request Gene to join. Let me go over to Gene's area here. And I should have got him going before, but we'll open that up. So this is my friend Gene Frankel, for those that know him from the Blue Oyster Cult. So that call should be coming in. Let's go back. It is calling. All right, let's see. Why aren't you getting the call? All right, let's just have him join explicitly. So let me do a share invite, copy the meeting link, come back over to Gene, paste that, join from the browser. What I want to do is get him in here to share some content so you can see what that looks like. I think this is even in the browser, it's still, that whole flexible layout is still there. We're going to have Gene join. So we're in the meeting, and then we're going to have Gene share his screen. Let's just share a tab. Let's see. I just want to share anything. So let's see. Let's go with that. Yeah. Hit share. All right. Come back to Ricardo, and that is being shared. Okay. So we got the flexibility here of, squeezing things. You can see here it's prioritizing, in this case, the people pane. If I had it on chat, it would prioritize that, right, as I'm squeezing. So it's moving things around. It's kind of cool. But what's also kind of cool here is the additional flexibility. My chat, I'm sure you've been in sessions, even these days, when someone's in the meeting, they're presenting. If you're saying anything in chat, I can't see it, so just let me know, all of that stuff. And it's usually because they're full screen, they just can't manage all the different panes. Has anyone noticed this little button over here? That's kind of new. And with that, I am bringing out the chat to a separate flexible window. Okay. Not only that, we've always had the ability to pop out the screen. Not always, but for a long time, I've had the ability to pop out the shared content. And so now in this meeting, I have this cool flexibility of having all of this content in a way. If I turn this off, for instance, I can, scrunch things around even on this one monitor screen to see content shared, chat separately, people's video feeds here. This is pretty cool, right? Especially as a presenter where I'm trying to monitor chat. Well, now that's in a separate window. I personally like, if lots of people are showing their video feeds here, I like to see that. And so I pop out content that's being shared so that I can get full resolution, big pictures of their video feeds, in addition to seeing the content. And then I am a multi-monitor person. And so this is even more valuable to me because, as you can imagine, I can put the shared content on one monitor, the chat on my portrait monitor, and maybe the main window on my main monitor. I know not everyone has that, ability to have that many monitors, but even if you have two, you can imagine the flexibility here. So between it being flexible for portraits and for just fitting things on, and to be able to break all these things out, I think is pretty awesome. I was trying to think if there was even another aspect to this. Yeah, you basically have your shared content, your chat, and then the people. So this pretty much gives us all those things. And of course, if you just hit close to bring all those things kind of back into, what they were originally. That pop-out chat, though, is just, I have just used that so much recently. It's hard to kind of explain those scenarios where that really becomes helpful, not just as a presenter, but just as being in a meeting and wanting to monitor chat, but also seeing the full fidelity of whatever someone's sharing, or the full fidelity of all the video feeds being shown. So that's cool stuff. Again, the main thing we were pointing out here in terms of February 4th, I think it was, is the flexible windows, but I thought it was also a good jumping off point to just talk about the flexibility of popping out these windows as well. So that to me is good stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of this window. So I don't, if you are out there and have tried this or anything, feel free to give a comment there. And then I did want to check in terms of recap. Okay, yeah, recap has always had its pop out. Um, so we're good there. I guess I'll discard that. All right. So yeah, good stuff there. Let me check one more thing here. Come in here and yeah, good. And then I did remember it. So you guys don't have to remind me. The calendar. I mentioned maybe a session or two ago that there is this button for new calendar. So we have your standard Teams calendar. There is new calendar, which essentially brings the goodness of your new Outlook functionality into your calendar. The reason I'm still on the fence about it is, when you open up a meeting invite, you're getting a an Outlook view of it, which like 90% of the time is what I want and like. I am a big fan of the new Outlook UI and all of that. But 10% of the time, and I think I've got an example here. So yeah, this is a meeting I organized called test. If I go back to old, and I don't want to give feedback in this case, and open that, this to me is what's still missing, right? See these team specific tabs up top. And I mean, I did check on this. I mean, it is a known limitation. They're working on it and that kind of thing. And I think for me, I might need to wait until this comes. I just feel like I'm missing something if these things aren't there. Attendance, and I mean, I can get to recap on the new version, but and scheduling assistant. But attendance would be one thing, maybe Q&A. I thought that breakout rooms tab was something I was missing as well, but that's when I noticed in Outlook, whether you hit the new Outlook or just come here. I don't know if anybody has noticed there's a breakout rooms button in the ribbon of Outlook. So that if there are rooms there, you can join them or you can create the rooms right from here. That was pretty cool. And that was kind of a clue to let me know that integration they mentioned, this moment that I'm waiting for where the new calendar is kind of fully integrated with Teams functionality. I think it is coming, and we're making good progress because this button showed up, and that to me is a big deal. So again, this is just Outlook, but opening a Teams meeting and seeing a breakout rooms on an Outlook ribbon, I thought was pretty cool. And I know that it's good stuff, always happening in that breakout rooms capability, more flexibility there. So I think that's a good sign of things to come. To be able to join it right from here. And I haven't tried this yet, but I'm imagining there's a scenario here where a pre-created meeting with pre-created breakout rooms, if I am joining from Outlook, I may want to hit the join button here and just join the main meeting, or I may have a specific breakout room that I'm aware of for this meeting that I want to join instead. So that could be very cool, very convenient, as opposed to joining the main room and then finding the breakout room and that kind of thing. So I just noticed that, and I thought maybe if I hadn't noticed it, maybe you hadn't noticed it, and you heard it here first. But outside of that, if I go back to Teams, yes, the Teams this new calendar seems to be getting some updates. I mean, it looked a little different, I think, than when I showed you all a month or so ago. So they're certainly working on it. But if you weren't aware, that new calendar button is there, and it's easy to switch back and forth as you've seen me do, in case you want to try it. And if you don't like it, at least for now, you can switch back. But yes, I will say, like I said, 90, maybe 80% of the time, opening it up in this view is what I want. I get all the goodness of Outlook, the ability to join, the ability to hit chat, in its own window, I might add, and everything else in between. So I'm mostly there, but I'm still kind of waiting on. I don't know. I could see myself maybe keeping this on, and then as long as that toggle is there, maybe taking it off for those moments when I feel like I need a missing tab. So, but they did edge a little forward for me with that breakout room in the Outlook ribbon. So, just a little something there. Checking the chat, no questions there. The only other thing that I was going to talk just briefly about, and I was considering a kind of a full blown talk, but many of you know and maybe are using the new chat UI, basically chat and channels all on chat and Teams channels all in one place. I absolutely love it. I know there may be varying opinions out there. I'm happy to see anybody put it in chat whether you love or hate it. I love it. If they take it away, I'll be crushed. But that is something I was thinking about, is basically an everything you ever needed to know about the new chat UI kind of session, maybe for next month, because there are just so many productivity scenarios, at least for me, that this provides. It's also in mobile, which is also a huge deal. I experienced that myself when I was traveling and trying to keep up with chats on my mobile. This UI did it in a way that was way better than the old UI for mobile. And so yeah, I would probably need a whole session to kind of talk about all the goodness there. So if that's of interest, maybe a thumbs up or something. Let me know if that's a talk for a session in the future. But yeah, that's that's probably the other thing in Teams since we've last met that continues to be new and changing there. And then of course all the Copilot goodness, but we usually reserve those for the Cap for Copilot sessions. So good stuff there. All right. Again, if you got any questions, let me know. But that is the gist of the things again, random things I've just come across since we met last month that I thought I'd talk through from a Teams perspective. So hopefully Teams is still treating you well out there. I'm assuming you're still evangelizing it, and that's why you come to these sessions, to kind of get tips and tricks and things like that. It's when many of you have been on this series since it began, and so applause for you for hanging with us all this time. Back when all of these chat and video conferencing tools were kind of novel, we're now several years in where I imagine you're like me. Teams is as prevalent on my screen as Outlook, right? We sit all day on Outlook and Teams. So it's not a if I'm using Teams, it's it's just a given, just like Outlook, right? And so that's why I think these discussions about best practices are continue to be important, because this is our everyday tool. So we want to make sure we're using it well and leveraging all of the capabilities. All right, good stuff. All right, well, we're about at time here, so hope that was helpful for you. Again, we'll be here every month. And I appreciate the chat. This gives you content for your monthly office hour sessions, which is great. Very good stuff. Yeah, so we'll be back here next month. Again, I will always come with content, but feel free to come with your questions for sure. Even small ones, right? You never know when your small question might be something someone else had a question about as well. Things like, I was using it for X and it didn't work out, or I'm thinking about using Teams for this, and what do you think? All that good stuff. So bring those questions. If you don't want to talk on the session, you can use the chat and we can do all that good stuff. All right. So other than that, glad you made it this month. happy Friday, happy Valentine's Day, all that good stuff. And we will see you next week. I'm sorry, see you next month in March, and I'll update the aka.ms/cute for teens with the link and the information. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.